And welcome back to the review of Death. I'm Matthew Toffolo, and I'm joined as ever by Billy Garrett-John. Say hello, Billy.
Hello, Billy. Hello, everybody. It's really lovely to be back and doing stuff again.
We're doing a rod for the first time since Revolution. No, was it Revolution of the Daleks? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we actually have done one this year.
We've done one this year. Yeah, we have. So
I feel like the last time we actually properly sat down and did something was like last summer now. Yeah,
it does feel like that. But yeah, we did a few different things, didn't we, last year? And we obviously we did Revolution this year. This year just seems to be going so slowly.
I know. Weird. But as of the date we're recording this, within the next sort of 2 weeks, we will be able to meet up
and do stuff properly. Yeah,
indoors. We can record stuff. So I reckon we just bash out 100 videos just to make up for like the last year.
Well, today we are going to be talking about this bloke, the Master. Actually, even better picture. These blokes and
lady.
We're talking about the Master because it was the 50th anniversary of the Master turning up in Doctor Who this year. Obviously, season 8 came out at the start of the year as well. Brilliant box set for everyone who's managed to get hold of it. And I sort of said to you, didn't I? I said, we could do something on season 8. And then, of course, DWM decided that they were going to do a ranking of all of the Master stories. So I thought, well, let's go back to what we did right at the start of our review of Death days when we first started doing these videos. And one of our first videos was the all the episodes ranking, wasn't it?
It was. I think that kind of gave everybody the measure of how pessimistic and dour we can be when we see stories like, what is that doing there? And I think probably the best thing to do from the off is, and we've spoken about this already a little bit before we started recording, is let's just eliminate the stories which are not Master stories, because there's quite a few in here, predominantly from series 10, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
That are just like, what is that doing in there? So I mean, I think some of them feature the Master or Missy in it more than others.
Yeah.
But stuff like Extremis, I don't really remember her being involved that much.
Yeah, she's only in it a little bit. It's like her own secluded little sequences where she's about to get executed and all that stuff. But she's not really part of the story. She's not a driving part of the plot, you know. So ignore that.
And until you get to the last story of that season, you just get sort of like the last scene, almost like a kind of pre-end credit sequence. You see her. Very much so,
because they've got Eaters of Light. I said to you, I didn't even remember she was in that story. I mean, no, exactly. Who remembers Eaters of Light anyway? It's terrible. But
Empress of Mars as well.
Yeah, I love that story, and I didn't think I could only vaguely remember that she appears in it briefly.
I know.
So I don't know why they're on there.
No, I think because she's in it. You know, but I think we can eliminate those as Master.
But by that measure, Caves of Androzani should be on there because Anthony Ainley turns up and has a line. So
it's a good point. And also, am I going mad? Or Trial of a Time Lord is in there. But then should you not have subdivided those, as we've said many times, into the individual
different stories? Well,
stories.
Yeah. And I
mean, this is where that's quite useful, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, because when he turns up in Trial of a Time Lord, it's not his story. He's just there to, ask about and be like, I can't wait to see how this all goes down, sort of thing.
I suppose you could almost say the same thing about like Utopia is kind of the same though in that regard. Like, the story isn't centric to. I mean, I know it's a fake out. Yeah. But like for the majority of the story, it's not centric to the Master.
It isn't.
Until you find out that it's him.
But it's bloody good though.
but that is definitely a Master story though. Like it has to be. Like he is in it through the entirety of that story, pretty much.
Yeah. So and I guess the reveal is the big.
It's the reason everybody watches that one because it's
exactly
sort of part one of the finale, of the 3-part finale. So let's go through the list. Do you reckon? Then should we start with the group stage?
So Group A was the Demons as the winner over Spyfall, Extremis, and Colony in Space. I think that is probably pretty fair.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I always assumed that it would be down to maybe 2 episodes or 3 that would win overall. Yeah. And if the Demons had gone out at that stage, that would have been one of the obvious candidates eliminated from the list. It wasn't going to be Demons going out at that point.
No, not at all.
what I find interesting though, and we'll say this throughout a lot of it, is obviously there's a recency bias with a lot of stuff that when people vote for anything, whether they really, really liked it and they kind of can't see past some of the flaws it might have because they haven't had an opportunity to digest it, or you know, it hasn't maybe aged well enough or for enough time. But let's, you know, there's a few in here. I think Spyfall, it's right that it comes second out of those four. Because Extremis, like we say, we can kind of do away with it. Colony in Space is not a great story. No, but it, you know, the Master is in the majority of it, and it's quite a good story for Ainley, I think. For
Delgado.
Oh, Delgado, fuck it. I'm fake fan.
Get out.
I'm looking at a photo of him.
Quit the video. That's it.
Can't believe it. Can't believe it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, yeah, I think Colony in Space should have done better than Extremis, just because she's not really in it that much. And Colony in Space actually is a Master story. I don't think either story is particularly good. I mean, I guess I would sooner watch Colony in Space because it's got John Pertwee and Delgado in it. I think that's something we should mention as well before we carry on with this. Favorite Master, now that we've had many?
Yeah, I know, we probably should have kicked off with that. I mean, Delgado for me, I'd
say. Yeah, definitely.
Favorite overall Master, Delgado. Classic Delgado. New series, I would probably go Dwan.
Oh, would you? Okay.
Yeah, I reckon. What do you think?
New series, I know this is a bit of a cheat, but I would say Derek Jacobi.
I know. Like, how much of his stuff have you listened to on Big Finish?
I've listened to the first War Master box set, and I've listened to some of his appearances in, I think he's in one of the Paul McGann box sets. Yeah. He's in Ravenous or something. And he's really good in that. It's just something about him. It's just like, but he's so good. He's so good. He would have been. He is
excellent. And I, you know, it's nice that he's got that outlet to do it now.
Yeah.
You know,
it was like a missed opportunity back in the day after he did his couple of minutes. Yeah,
exactly. So, but it's nice that he's doing it again. Now, Group B.
Yeah.
Obviously, The Lie of the Land comes in at 4.7%, and we won't talk about that anyway.
No.
The Magician's Apprentice, which is familiar, has absolutely steamrolled.
Yeah.
Trial of a Time Lord and Mark of the Rani. I have to say, I for some reason can never get along with Mark of the Rani.
No.
I cannot stand that story. I don't know why, but I really do not like Mark of the Rani. I've never enjoyed watching it. I've always had like a bit of a blind spot with it in terms of watch-alongs and like, you know, doing marathons. I'm always like, God, let's just get Mark of the Rani out of the way. Yeah. I don't know why. If I go back and watch it, you know, when it comes out on the collection set, I'll probably enjoy it. Yeah. But I mean, it's you know, interesting to see it going out at that point. And we'll come back to the Magician's Apprentice and the Witch's Familiar in kind of a later round because it does get quite frustrating. Story.
Yeah, I mean, I think that wouldn't have been my lineup for sure. I think I would have sooner have put even Trial of a Time Lord above Magician's Apprentice personally. But okay, so Group C.
Yes.
So eliminated right at the bottom, we've got The King's Demons. Fair enough.
Fine. No problem with that whatsoever.
It's a real nothing story.
Yeah.
It's
2 episodes long, isn't it?
It's 2 episodes long. No matter how many times I watch that story, I always leave it thinking, I don't really know what the Master was up to. What was his plan? Something to do with the Magna Carta and King John and Chameleon. It's odd. As a season finale, it's a duff one.
It's a strange one. I also, something I wanted to say, because I was thinking this when I was, you know, we were talking about doing this video, that I think there are 2 kind of distinct different types of Master story. The King's Demons sort of epitomizes it really in terms of one of them, in that you either join a story with the Master already at the top of that, you know, chain of command or whatever. Yeah. Like, you know, in Colony in Space, he comes in and he's the chief and, you know, he's calling the shots and everybody kind of respects him and stuff. And then you have the Master stories where he's kind of desperately clawing himself up from somewhere.
Yeah.
So whether that's, you know, he's emaciated and dying in, you know, Keeper of Traken or Deadly Assassin, or he is like a gangster trying to get his way up to the top of, you know, a chain of command. Like in The Mind of Evil, he definitely comes across like a kind of mafioso.
He really
type.
does. Yeah.
And even, you know, watching The Demons the other day, you know, even though he's a reverend in a small village, he's still kind of the most respected person.
He's already ingratiated himself into that little group, into that little society, and he's at a high point.
Whereas like in Utopia and the Sea Devils, both of which appear in this, they're like, he's pretty much powerless until you find out, of course, that he's in, you know, he's colluding with the
warden, isn't
governor.
he?
And
I think that's another good point with this, with the Master, is that at times the Master can be like, I always like this quote from Five Doctors, where the Doctor says, "Oh, he's my best enemy," and it's not like, "Oh, he's like my arch enemy," like the Daleks, you know, where every time the Daleks turn up, 9 times out of 10, you know, oh, stuff is going down, it's the worst possible situation. With the Master, it can be a case of the Master's around, this is end of the universe type deal, or it can be, oh, here he comes with another mischievous plot just to get on my nerves, you know? And I think King's Demons is very much like that. It was like the Master got out of bed one day and thought, what shall I do?
I
got a robot that can change its appearance. Should we go back in time and ask around with the Magna Carta? Go on then.
I love that kind of thing though, because it typifies for me the thing that makes the Master the Doctor's best enemy is that obviously we know that they were friends at the Academy. One went one way, one went the other. And it's just that they both find glee in separate parts of their personalities. And also that kind of ultimate confidence that the Master has, where the Master could walk into a situation and command it and be in charge of it straight away. And believes his own bullshit, you know. I think that's the nice thing about the Doctor, is the Doctor doesn't really have that. And I think in a way the Doctor might kind of grudgingly respect the Master for being able to command a presence like that. The Doctor always thinks they're the smartest one in the room, but they're also much more fallible than the Master.
But the Master doesn't think that. He thinks,
I'm the best. I can do this. You know,
which is always his downfall.
Exactly, and that's the thing I think is quite nice, is that duality and that difference in their character is the thing that's kind of made them the lasting kind of through line of enemies, you know, top enemies through the series. So Group D, Logopolis, surprisingly, goes over the end of time, which I'm kind of surprised by personally.
Really?
I know it's Tom's last story, but again, maybe it's like a positive recency bias, or the fact that it was David's last story and it was huge and it was Johnson coming back. And they were both at the top of their game, really. You know, they were both bidding farewell to this monolith that had done them, you know, a great service. I'm surprised that the End of Time didn't win that group. I mean, even if it was closer. You know,
I mean, I think for me, I think Logopolis wins, like obviously, like you said, Tom's last story. So I've got a bit of bias there. But I think the Master it's a bit of a muddly plot, but you know, he does end up like wiping out most of the universe. Whether it is intentional or not, you know. So he is, you know, I think that is Ainley in one of his sort of best performances. You know, this is when the Master is like, really, I've got an evil scheme, and it's not so much I'm going to dress up like a scarecrow in a field for no reason and ass around with the Rani for a few episodes, you know? So I'm not surprised. And I think, you know, although the Master is a strong through line through the End of Time, I guess Rassilon is the main sort of baddie. It's the return of the Time Lords that, do you think? I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah, he is the kind of bait and switch villain in that guys, isn't he? Because you don't expect it to be, you know, you think, oh my god, the Time Lords are back, here we go, everything, they're going to sort everything out. All, and then you realize, you know, at the end of it, oh okay, they sort of team up. So it's kind of like, I suppose the only other story I can think of that's like that actually got to TV would be the series 10 finale, World Enough and Time, Doctor Falls, because that is kind of the only other time that I can think of where it's like, oh, the Master is in like deep poo, and is realizing that perhaps they shouldn't be doing what they've been doing all their lives, and they kind of team up with the Doctor, and that's yeah, it's something you don't really see. So it's
No.
got that going for it. So I in that regard, I am surprised that Logopolis sort of pipped it, really.
Yeah. And then, of course, we've got the Time Monster and Eaters of Light. But I mean, Eaters of Light, we couldn't even remember she was in it. And the Time Monster, well, you know.
What do we need to say?
What do we need to say? You know, I think it's one of those stories you need to be in the mood for. Do you know what I mean? You've got to be maybe slightly inebriated and just be like, this is a good laugh.
Yeah.
You can't take it too seriously.
It kind of fits in the same category, probably. If I watched it again and actually really got into it, it would probably fit in the same category of, you know, why I like going back and watching Death of the Daleks.
Yeah.
You know, it's that same sort of, you know, whatever, stick it on.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like a Bond movie that you know is crap.
Yes.
But it's just like, God, I could just sit here and just let it wash over me for an hour and a half, and I don't even think about it.
There's a charm to it that you can just be like, So that's fair enough. So Group E.
Yeah, Group E. Obviously, the Deadly Assassin runs away with it.
Yeah.
It had to.
TV movie was next. And that beat Planet of Fire and Empress of Mars. Again, Empress of Mars probably shouldn't have even been on the list because she's in it for like 5 seconds. Planet of Fire, a dreadfully dreary story.
Yeah.
Again, not one of the Master's finest moments. It's a shame, really, that during the 80s they had this real obsession with keep bringing him back every series and diminishing roles like every time.
I know, but you can't really do the same thing that they did, you know, in the first, you know, in season 8, where he's in every single story. It's nice to have the Master there, but the Master feels like a piece of the furniture in the 80s. Whereas even though Delgado's in every episode in season 8, for example, it feels like there has been in between those stories enough of a break. Where it's not like Tegan, effectively every single time she sees Ainley, it's just like, oh, you're right. How, you know? It's been what, God, like a week since we last saw you. Whereas like in the you know, season 8, it's like it could be months between them seeing the Master again. You know that when the Doctor finds out that Magister is the Master in the demons, it is like a kind of, oh God, it's him. Let's, you know, we've prepared for this now. We know what to do when the Master's around. They've built up that sort of like understanding of him, and that could only have come over a period of time. And so I think that's why the Master is kind of more effective in those stories in the 1970s, because he's treated as more of a legitimate threat rather than here comes the bloody pantomime villain wandering in.
And it works in that following season, in season 9. You know, you've got a really great strong story for the Master with the Sea Devils, and then obviously you've got the Time Monster, which is you know, it's a bit of fun. But the Time Monster feels like it's one of those stories where everyone's having a good time. It's like this is like the sort of after party of the series. It's like everyone's got together, you know. We're not taking this too seriously, Tom Tit and all that sort of stuff. And it's a Birdman with a bucket on his head flapping about. But I wonder if they'll do something with that on the Blu-ray. Will they?
I hope not. I think that would kind of be like taking all of the double entendres out of a Carry On movie. It would sort of be like, why would I want to watch this now?
I can't think of any other story that would require an update CGI wise, because they've done Day of the Daleks, but that's the only one in that season.
Invasion of the Dinosaurs. In that season. In that season, I don't know.
Like, you don't want to touch Curse of Peladon, because Peladon's fine as it is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's not an awful lot to do in there anyway, is there?
No.
There's not a lot of. I mean, the model work is great.
Superb. That's brilliant. That bit at the start. Anyway, we're getting off track. Talking about,
which is very, very easily done. I think the only other thing I wanted to mention in Group E, I guess, would be the TV movie. Obviously, it's the only appearance in this list of Eric Roberts as the Master. I think he's had a bit of a renaissance as well, hasn't he? I think people are kind of accepting him now as like a kind of, in that same, like if Amy came back and did him, I mean, obviously you can't, but in that kind of, I want to listen to him really camp it up. And it's the same with Eric Roberts. I want to listen to him not really act, but just be Eric Roberts.
I mean, I've only heard him in Ravenous. And when he came back, you know, I was really excited because I was like, oh, you know, it's going to be Paul McGann and his Master, you know, meeting for the first time. And he was really good. I was like, my God, you know, he was very sinister, and it was a very relaxed performance. You know, it wasn't all this flamboyant flouncing about or anything like that. It was just a very measured, you know, I don't know if that was just because he was like, hey, I'm just here, gonna get paid for doing this stuff.
Guys, I've got you got an hour and a half of my time. Give me this. I'm not flying over to London to do it. I'll do it here in LA. Just give me the script. I think that is definitely the approach, but I kind of massively respect that.
It works. It's got this sort of like effortless, sinister charm. I think he's really good. And I think
he could very easily have never done anything to do with Doctor Who again.
Yeah.
Never do a con, which I don't think he tends to do anyway.
Yeah.
He could very easily just never touch that show ever again.
Yeah.
And he was probably offered a nice bit of money.
Yeah.
Which is great, but he's decided, go on, whatever, I'll do it. It's work, whatever. And I think I hope he knows how much people kind of appreciate.
Yeah, I imagine he does. Now that he's done a few things, he's got his own box set and stuff. It's good. It's good to see him back. And there's rumours that he will be appearing in some other Doctor Who audios coming up. But I won't say too much on that because I don't want to spoil it for anyone. Which is exciting. So hey, it's great to have another Master, because it was weird.
Absolutely.
Like when Big Finish started, it was like, oh shit, we've got no Master other than Geoffrey Beevers.
And he did a fabulous job and still does.
Yeah, he is amazing. Yeah. And like now we've got, you just have to look at the back of the book. I mean, all right, so some of them aren't in it, but I
know.
It's amazing. It's really, really good. So that was
lovely.
Group, what was that? Group E. So Group F. So
World Enough and Time is the winner.
It is the winner over what? Claws of Axos, and then the Ascension of the Cybermen, Timeless Children. Oh, so the most recent story. And also above
Death in Heaven.
Right. I think that's probably fair, because I think
I'm surprised that the Claws of Axos didn't get more votes, personally. I mean, I think that World Enough and Time and the Doctor Falls, it is a fantastic series finale. I think probably the best series finale since the winner of Group G, which we'll come on to in a minute, in terms of the new series. But I'm a bit surprised Claws of Axos only comes in with 20%. And again, something else that's probably worth mentioning, I do not buy for a second that in terms of quality of story, The Magician's Apprentice and The Witch's Familiar can win in Group B, and yet Ascension of the Cybermen and The Timeless Children gets mullered in Group F. Because, I'm sorry, whatever you think of The Timeless Children, Ascension of the Cybermen and The Timeless Children is a better Doctor Who episode than The Magician's Apprentice.
Yeah, and I think well, we'll talk about Magician's Apprentice when it comes up later on, but there's a lot to talk. There's a lot to unpick there, and like you said, I think if you sort of say, well, Timeless Children, I know people rag on it for saying, oh, it's like the Master gives a load of exposition to the Doctor for 45 minutes, which is fair enough. He does. I do think the Master's involvement in that story is much stronger than, say, her involvement in the Dalek story, The Magician's Apprentice. So we'll come back to that one. So Group G, the winner was Sound of Drums, Last of the Time Lords.
Yeah.
Above Frontier in Space, Cast Revolver, and Time Flight. Well, Time Flight's terrible, so you can just forget that.
Even though it is our milk and butter, it is absolutely dreadful. We need to do like an audio commentary of us watching Time Flight.
Oh my god, I didn't know if we could get through.
I think we should do that. Sound of Drums, Last of the Time Lords. I mean, like I say, it's probably one of the best season finales the show's ever had.
Yeah, you really like that one, do you? I watched
it. I went back and watched it not long ago with Stell.
Right.
And she's not a huge, Doctor Who fan. Obviously, she has probably watched maybe a dozen episodes.
Yeah.
Over her life, and I put that on just to sort of go like, this is Doctor Who riding super high. This is top of the kind of mountain in terms of quality. Quality in terms of like the exposure of the program. And it's kind of great, I think, in terms of the Master actually has his fucking day. He actually becomes the ruler of Earth. And he gets close every now and again, and he'll use Earth as kind of like a jumping on point for the rest of the universe. But he brings like Armageddon.
Yeah, it's the one where he wins, isn't it?
He wins, and it's done so well, and and John Sim is so gleeful in his victory that you can't help but kind of go, oh wow, like if you're going to do it, this is the way to do it, master. Like, well done, like fair play. you have destroyed everything. And I think John Sim's really good in it. I think if you take it as like he's the master that wins, and that is his character, so he's obviously completely mental and over the moon.
He's taken all this time,
unhinged, taking all this time. I've finally done it. If you take his character in that regard, it
makes sense.
Actually,
contextually, and I think then it also makes sense when he comes back even more mad in End of Time, because he's like, I was the master. I had the world at my feet, and now look at me. I'm back to being this cadaver that can barely survive unless I'm eating roast chicken very quickly.
Exactly.
So,
forgot about
myself indigestion.
So I think that he, it's his first outing. I think he knocks it out of the park for that characterization of the master. Yeah. And he's kind of the most evolving master as well. Like we'll obviously talk about, him in later appearances. Yeah. Frontier in Space, I have a massive soft spot for that story.
Yeah, I like Frontier in Space.
I'm glad that it's a runner-up because it was only, 0.4% away from being beaten or matched by Castrovalva.
Gosh, really? That's mad, isn't it? I like Castrovalva. I do. It's
probably a tighter story than Frontier. It's probably a more watchable story than Frontier. And
although you say that, but the first two episodes are just set in the TARDIS. Doing nothing.
I know, but like at least Frontier, I'm saying that besides the fact Frontier is a 6-part story. Like I think that Castrovalva is probably a better constructed, more tightly written episode. Ignoring the fact that Frontier is 2 episodes longer. But I'm very happy to see that. I mean, it will get eliminated by whatever it gets matched up with in the next round, I'm sure. Yeah. But it's quite nice to see Frontier get that opportunity because it was Roger's last appearance. And again, it's effortless with them, isn't it? It's like, him and Joe and the Third Doctor, they are just, warring family at that point, aren't they?
It's like what you said about Sound of Drums, this Doctor Who at the height of its powers for that period, you can't do any wrong. Good monsters with the Ogrons and the Draconians, monsters that are at their best in terms of design, they're like effortlessly good.
A great reveal with the Daleks.
With the Daleks.
Even though they are like in it through the entire story, pretty much. And it's just, they've got this looming presence over the whole thing, which I think is really cool. That is a story that I think more people need to go back and enjoy. It's like Star Wars crossed with Blake Seven in Doctor Who.
Yes, very much so.
Big story, isn't it?
It's really good. So next group H. So at the top was Terror of the Autons, Master's first appearance, and that beat Survival and the Keeper of Traken and the Mind of Evil. I think that's probably a bit of a fair estimation, really.
Yeah.
I have no real critique there. Survival,
Luke
I think,
Fallon
is very good.
Going to be absolutely over the moon.
Will be devastated.
No. But I mean, at least that it got more than the Mind of Evil, because I prefer the Mind of Evil to the Keeper of Traken.
Same. So do I.
But then I probably, to be honest, would only switch around the percentages. I wouldn't be putting either of those stories in the runner-up spot.
No, not at all. No, I think Survival is good because I think Ainley is very good in that story. I think that is Ainley at his best, probably, because they've sort of stripped the master of all the pantomime and the silly disguises, and it is again the master at his most powerless, really.
But I'm kind of shocked that Terror of the Autons was the winner out of Survival. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's Delgado's first appearance. He hits his stride very well.
Yes,
but when you watch it, he's not really the master yet. Like
we're just getting to know him, aren't we?
Literally, I mean, by the time the Mind of Evil comes around, he's pretty much there.
Yeah,
and certainly by the time you get to the demons, he has absolutely nailed it. But I feel like Survival is kind of a more assured performance.
Yes, and the stakes are higher as well.
Exactly.
The relationship is there. By this point, we really know what is going on with these two characters and all the stuff that they've been through. So then when they have big fight at the end, it's a strong ending. I think we've said this before in other videos.
It really is.
For what is essentially the finale of Doctor Who, as a whole, it's not a bad one, to end with the big battle between the Master and the Doctor. You don't know what happened to the Master. Who knows?
And it doesn't need the Daleks in it.
No,
it doesn't need. It just needs those two. Fighting it out. I think the reason that Terror probably does win is, having watched it again recently because of the season 8 Blu-ray. So, it is a story full of loads of brilliant individual moments.
Yes.
As a whole, it doesn't quite come together, but then you just think about individual moments and you're like, right. So that jump, even like little moments, like the jump scare of the Auton being in the bank vault. The police officer getting his face ripped off. The dummy, the troll doll. And that whole action sequence with
in the quarry with
knocking them over.
And
even like the concept of the standoff at the end with that with the bus and the Air Force flying over and stuff. It's really great.
There's a lot there, isn't there?
But cohesively doesn't quite knit.
Okay.
I think go back and watch it again, because the individual moments are fantastic for anyone who hasn't seen it recently. The individual elements are fantastic, but watching it as a whole, it's kind of all right.
I think it's good though, because it sort of it sets the scene for that season. You know what I mean? It's like, right, if you watch Terror of the Autons, this is what you're getting for season 8, pretty much. You're going to have some alien entity and the Master's going to team up with them, and there's going to be some sort of a betrayal or something's going to go wrong. Unit's going to be shooting monsters and all that sort of stuff. And, that is basically season 8, apart from Colony in Space.
Pretty much. I think that's exactly right. I think, it does set a template. And that should be appreciated, because that template does work, and it could have easily failed. So the fact that it does set itself, it shop up well for the future of Earthbound Doctor Who stories is kind of commendable, really.
Like you said, it's all guns blazing with all the action stuff. It's just like throw all the money at it, and
it looks like they've actually spent a decent chunk on getting it off the ground for that first season, because they go to so many different cool places.
Apart from Mrs. Farrell's CSO kitchen.
Yeah, but I mean, now that we have
much improved,
the much improved Blu-ray version, the special effects in that version are absolutely fantastic.
Right,
so the knockout stage.
Right,
interestingly,
Demons over the trial of the Time Lord. Easy, you don't
easily done.
Don't have to even mention it. Number 2, Utopia over the End of Time. Now, I think this is more of an interesting one. I agree.
Do you reckon?
I agree, but I'm surprised. I thought it would be closer, because Utopia was 71% and End of Time was 29%. I thought
maybe people are going back and just not rating the End of Time anymore.
Maybe,
because it's never been a story that people have gone, that was the best story ever, when it really could have been, considering it was, they wanted to throw everything at it. The production, the creative team were saying goodbye. It was them bidding farewell, and you think maybe it's not that great a farewell, because the quality isn't really there compared to previous stories.
I think people's I think stuff like the 10th Doctor's like drawn out goodbye hinders it. I think it needed to be it needed to be sharper, much in the same way as with Peter Capaldi's ending. I've always said to you that he should have gone at the end of the Cyberman story.
I know.
When he said that, I hope there would be stars. What a beautiful last line for the Doctor. Yeah. Not a bloody soliloquy about be kind, don't eat pears, wipe your bum, pick your nose, stick in a tissue, wear a mask, all that stuff.
I love it. I agree. I am surprised that the percentage is lower for the End of Time throughout those 2 votes that it lasted before getting eliminated in the knockout stage. But at the same time, it isn't a superb story. So fair enough. Match 3, I mean, obviously the Deadly Assassin beats the Claws of Axos.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question there.
No, I think the percentages are pretty much bang on as well with that one.
Yeah.
The Sound of Drums and Last of the Time Lords just really
really
beat
did
Survival.
Yeah, which is quite surprising. I mean, I think I prefer Survival personally. just because I think it's a tighter story, and I like Anthony Ainley in it, and I like Sylve. You know, I prefer those two as the Doctor and the Master compared to Tennant and John Sims. So I'm biased there.
I have to say though, if the Sound of Drums and Last of the Time Lords isn't beaten by something in the next round, then that is an odd thing. It's odd that it went through at this stage. Match 5. This is one I really want to talk about. So the Magician's Apprentice / Witch's Familiar beats Spyfall. I cannot see why that would have won. Besides the fact that people just don't like the Jodie era as a whole. Because Spyfall is inarguably a better story than the Magician's Apprentice and the Witch's Familiar.
Definitely. And
I will argue anybody on that point.
I agree. On that point. I mean, I think it's a better story in general. It's definitely a better story for the Master, because the Master is actually properly involved. For me, the Witch's Apprentice, or whatever it's called, Magician's Apprentice, Witch's Familiar. Why has it got such a shit title? What does any of that mean? What's it about? Stop trying to be clever with your titles.
It's Clara, isn't it? The title should basically just be Clara Part 1 and Clara Part 2. That's who it's referring to, isn't it?
Just call it Davros Opens His Eyes. Surprise. You know, that for me, that is a Davros Doctor story. And I think the Master or Missy being in it hinders that. I think what you could have had there could have been a very strong, dramatic investigation of their relationship. And it like Big Finish have done on audio with the Doctor and Davros. They've done some beautiful stories with just the two of them. And you sort of think, this could have been that, and what better Doctor to do it with than Peter Capaldi's Doctor, who, you know, as a fan has got such a strong relationship with this character anyway. It's
bizarre to think, like, the way it opens with him saving Davros. It goes back to the question, would you kill that child?
Yes, it does.
And then it's like, what's Missy doing here as well?
It's really weird. It's a real jumble of ideas that just,
what a shame,
doesn't gel. What
a shame.
It is a shame. Madness that it beat Spyfall.
Spyfall isn't the best story ever by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a better story than that. And again, I think that must just come down. I can understand if you don't like the Timeless Children as a concept. I can understand you not wanting to vote for that story. It's fine as a bit of telly, but I can understand you not wanting to do it on that principle, provided you're not going to be an arsehole about it. But like, Spyfall is a better piece of television than that other two-parter.
And I think, you know, I prefer Sacha Dhawan as the Master compared to Missy.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think I still dislike Dhawan's more manic moments, like when he goes like ridiculously zany. That still frustrates me, because I long for a Master on the television series that is more controlled, you know, more effortless, like Delgado.
I think the problem with that is, though, I don't think that Master really works as well now as it would have back then. I think that you can have it in bursts, like with John Sim coming back in the Series 10 finale. And that works because that's a character progression as well. He's reached that point where he's fully embodying what the Master should be. Or whatever. I love Dhawan's approach to it, and I usually hate villains that are that kind of manic. They're basically just we've said it before, they're basically just doing Heath
Ledger, aren't they?
And that is really frustrating to watch, because all villains basically come around to that. But rather than trying to paint him like most of these dramas do these days, when they have a villain that's a bit manic, like you know, embodying the kind of Heath Ledger Joker thing. They're always tortured artists. They're always misunderstood geniuses, and being evil is their canvas. It's their way of expressing themselves. Whereas with Dhawan, there's none of that pretense. He just likes being evil. It just makes sense to him. We've said this before in videos. That is why I really like his character, because I think he just nails that line of thinking with the
And
character.
I do like his anger. You know, he's like he's the master. He's like a frustrated master. He's like, you know, and it makes sense.
I'm doing everything right in my head.
Yeah.
Why is this woman interrupting me and trying to stop me all the time?
Yeah, and now we know that this incarnation comes after Missy, because it's sort of been said now, hasn't it, in other stuff, that he is a follow-up to Missy, which I know some people dislike because they were like, oh, Missy was a very nice ending to the master's character. But I think it works that his master is that angry and bitter, because it's almost like, imagine if you had a taste of that other side and then you've changed, and by no fault of your own, your personality regresses back to your darker ways. You know, I think that kind of works. So I quite like that. Or
you're angry at yourself for daring.
What was I thinking? This is what I should be doing. It'd be nice if they could have a conversation, you know, 13 and the Duan Master, where she says, you know, I almost had you. I almost got you to be good. And, you know, he can say, well, you know, it's not going to happen because I'm doubly bad. I'm doubly bad now because, you know, the reason I'm this bad is your fault for trying to fix it. Which I think is a really cool idea. Match 6, the Sea Devils beats the Logopolis. Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, I do like Logopolis, but obviously the Sea Devils, again, is just... It's just a cracking story, isn't it, really?
It is.
John,
I would have picked the Sea Devils or the Demons to win overall, personally. Those are the two that I would have gunned for in the voting. Okay. Match 7, World Enough in Time, and the Dr. Falls beats the TV movie.
Again, easy win. Can't
bang on.
Really fault anything there.
And Terror of the Autons continues its run of form, beating Frontier in Space.
Yeah, what do you think? I kind of agree.
Surprise! I agree in terms of it being more watchable.
Yeah.
I prefer Frontier in Space as a story.
Yeah.
Again, I think that it's protracted but it's an epic. It's a series. It is a series finale. I mean, I know that technically Planet of the Daleks is the finale for that series, but like, it's not doing the same thing. So I find it quite difficult to compare the two because I respect them in both different ways. I think Terror, much in the same way as Spearhead or Rose or The Woman Who Fell to Earth or the 11th Hour, it's a great
it's a good jumping on point, isn't it? Yeah.
Perfect, pretty much. And Frontier is a long, but sometimes a bit worthy, but very, very, very good, epic, you know, space finale. You know, like it's a huge production, it feels like, anyway.
And it's a shame that that's the end for the Master, that it's so, you know, it's just so fleeting that his departure, because obviously, you know, we tragically lost Roger Delgado.
It would have been nice to see them tie up him with the Daleks, I think. Yeah. Because it's so tantalizing seeing those two together and seeing how much Delgado's master despises being around them. Yes. Like he's like, I am so above you dustbins. Yeah. And that is so cool because nobody's spoken down to the Daleks like that before. No, it's just a shame, isn't it, actually, that wasn't utilized more. You know, it is really just that little brief bit where he's like, oh, do not fail the Daleks. Yeah. You know, that could have been a really strong hook within the story. You know, I wonder if they were just like, well, we've done so many stories where the Master teams up with an alien and then gets betrayed, so we didn't want to do that again. But you know, with the Daleks, it would have been good, and obviously it would have set up a nice sort of through line later on for the film when the Master is finally exterminated by the Daleks. I don't know if that's ever been explained in Big Finish. I don't know if they've ever said this is why that happened. No, I mean, I'm sure there's probably something out there that links events together. I imagine it's like some sort of Time War-y type stuff. Because maybe now, but back then, like, I don't know. Because wait, who is the Master when he gets? So it's Jeffrey Sachs, isn't it? Is that the actor who played the Master at the beginning? It's Gordon Tipple, isn't it? That's it. Jeffrey Sachs is the bloody director. Yeah, Gordon Tipple. They shot the director. Gordon Tipple. Yeah, he's the Master at the start. I always took that to be Anthony Ainley. Just they didn't have Anthony Ainley because you don't really.
I know some people are like, no, Gordon Tipple is his own master.
But also, to be fair, that's before you start getting mashup masters.
Yeah, true.
Where they can cross each other's timelines and do a multi-doctor, multi-master thing. So I think chronologically speaking, you are supposed to assume that it is Ainley because you don't know any better about other masters being in the same sort of time stream or whatever.
Yeah, he's got a goatee beard. So
yeah, well, there you go. Yeah. Exactly.
What more do you want?
It should. I mean, in that case, it could literally be any of them, really. But, whatever.
Delgado, Sim.
Quarterfinalists.
Yes. So we've got Utopia Beat the Demons.
Yep.
Which is, I'm kind of shocked.
I'm out of all of the stories left, I'm glad that one beat the demons. If any of them were beaten.
Yeah, true.
If any of them were to beat the demons, that's the only one I'd be happy with. That or Deadly Assassin. Yeah, I'd be like, fine.
Yeah, I think the demons is just, I don't know, it's just one of those. It's just such a classic, and I know Utopia is a classic for its own reasons.
Yeah.
But again, I think the demons has just got so much again with Unit, Pertwee, Delgado, Katie Manning. Again at the height of its powers. But of course, Utopia did have that humongous reveal. Which I don't think has it ever really been topped, anything like that in Doctor Who.
It would have been if they hadn't spoilt that John Sim was coming back.
Yes. Oh my God, that would have been incredible if they hadn't spoiled
Enough in
that.
time. Wouldn't
that have been?
I mean, I would love to be in an alternative reality when that character Razor, isn't it? Razor.
Yeah.
When he first appears on screen, I would love to be in an alternative reality on Twitter with everyone going, "Do you think that looks like John Sim, or is that me?"
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I mean, it's obviously not John Sim, but like, it looks a bit like John Sim. And then it's John Sim.
Sim, yeah. And I mean, would we have even thought John Sim? Because we thought it because obviously we knew he was going to be in it. So like you see him and you're like, oh, there he is.
There he is. Yeah, he's in disguise. Yeah.
But I think maybe if we didn't know the Master was coming back at all, we might not have even thought that. We'd be like, oh, okay, I wonder who this guy is.
The makeup job is quite good.
Yeah.
But it's still his eyes, and
it's still his eyes. When
he speaks,
you can hear it, can't you? That it's a bit of Sim. Yeah.
And I think people would have gone. I mean, good attempt.
Yeah.
Like maybe afterwards, I think it still would have been a very shocking reaction for everybody who didn't.
Yeah, because I think you probably would have been like, oh, they wouldn't ever bring him back. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. Oh,
but then go in the credits. Who is this actor, guys? I'm Googling this guy's name and nothing's coming up.
He doesn't exist,
And that would have, and so everybody by about the 25-minute mark
would have been
posting on Twitter, it's the Master, it's got to be the Master, which would have been lovely, but there you go. And then, the Deadly Assassin beats The Sound of Drums, Last of the Time Lords.
Sure. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Can't deny that. And then Sea Devils over Magician's Apprentice, which is familiar. Of course. Obviously,
depressing that it's that close, 55% to 44%.
Ridiculous, quite honestly, absolutely mad. I don't know whoever was voting for these stories on Twitter. Sort yourselves out. Come on,
honestly. March 12th. Match 12. World Enough in Time. The Doctor Falls beats Terror of the Autons. Again, I got to say, I'm still kind of surprised that Terror of the Autons is getting.
Oh, really? Yeah.
That high percentage. I mean, I gather this came out just before the box set dropped.
Yes, I think it did. But like just in time for it.
People are still obviously reappraising that series ahead of the box set coming out.
Yeah.
So I think again, there's like a recency bias. In that. I think in that people go back because every single time a new box set comes out,
the story's
really lovely.
Yeah,
everybody's like, go on, that is such a great season.
Yeah,
and I think thankfully season 24 is going to get that.
Yes.
Which I think is really, really good. I genuinely am so excited to see everybody just say that Paradise Towers is brilliant because it is. So that'll be fun. Anything else to add on those?
I mean, I like both stories. Part of me kind of thinks I probably would put Terror of the Autons above it. Just because of my classic series bias, it's no surprise to anyone, I'm sure. But Wood Enough and Time and the Doctor Force is excellent. It's a very good story. It is probably the best season finale of, a long time, possibly since Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways for me. I think that's a very strong finale. And then I think this one is probably the next best one. As good as Sound of Drums is, I think the undoing everything, and everything goes back in the bottle and it's all fine. I think that's a bit messy for my tastes. I
would say, though, I think we're saying that because the story is clearly supposed to be set present day.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have a story like Daleks' Invasion of Earth, you can sort of get away with leaving it in a state because it's that far away in the future.
Yeah.
But I think with a story that is clearly supposed to be happening now, and it's supposed to be reflective of our world,
you can't leave it like that.
I know, exactly. And I know from speaking to writers on the show, and we've spoken about it before, at that time, one of Russell's edicts was at the end of the story, everything goes back in the box. And we reset, we start from the beginning again. And that doesn't necessarily mean like a reset of timelines like in this one.
Yeah.
But I think that a huge cataclysmic event like that has to have a big, crazy, silly cataclysmic putting everything back together again at the end of it. Because it kind of went so far that you can't put everything back together again without doing something silly.
Yeah, like Dr. Jesus.
Dr. Jesus. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm shocked actually, really, going back and watching, not shocked in like an offended way, but just how blatant the storyline is. And
especially in the Voyage of the Damned, when he clicks his fingers and the angels lift him up, it's like, bloody hell. Once upon a time, we laughed at the TV movie for the Shroud and the Crown of Thorns. And it's like, crikey, you can't get much more bloody on the nose.
No, or, what was it? What's his face saying that the Doctor's God in the pitch meeting for Silver Nemesis. And it's like, okay, somebody obviously stopped you before you got ahead of yourself there. Yeah. So just as well, Good.
I like that story where it's like J&T was like, oh, okay, interesting. Well,
what are you going to do?
Do that, but just don't say it.
Yeah, or just going into a meeting and being like, I have no idea what I'm going to say. The Doctor's God. Brilliant. All right, you got the job.
Go for it.
What? Unbelievable.
A ballsy move. Ballsy play.
I would not have done that in a pitch meeting. Absolutely no way. Semi-finals, match 13. The Deadly Assassin beats Utopia.
Yeah.
And by a close one. How does your classic bias sort of like, judge that percentage difference between the two of them?
Let's see.
Because it is a favourite story of yours, obviously.
I love The Deadly Assassin. It was one of my first Doctor Who's I ever saw. I think that's fair. Because I think both are very good. I was absolutely shocked at Utopia when it aired. I was amazed and it was so exciting. So I think that's fair. I do think Deadly Assassin wins for me just because I've got a lot of nostalgic reverence for it. I know people sort of pick holes in the fact that there's no women in it, which is for today ridiculous. Sure. Yeah. I didn't take any notice as a kid, but like now as an adult watching it, you're like, this is mad.
It's very noticeable. Yeah.
And obviously episode 3, all the stuff in the Matrix, for some people, I know some people find that quite plodding and it's like it slows down the story. As a kid, that was so exciting. The Doctor's getting into fist fights and getting shot at and blown up. What's not to love? So yeah, I love it, and I think Peter Pratt is fantastic, and I think it's a real shame that we didn't get Peter Pratt back as the Master, because he does a really good job.
It's the same thing like when we were at Vorp and Jeffrey Beavers walks in the room and he opens his mouth and it's like, that's the Master. Yeah. Peter Pratt has that same sort of dynamic cadence in his voice. Isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just so unlike anybody else who's played the part,
that was hilarious at Vorp when he was like asking about the chocolates and I was like, oh, that one's like a toffee one, and he was like, ooh, lovely. Ooh. And it was just like dripping with menace over chocolate.
I know, it's like we're talking about the buffet, mate, that laid on. Like, also, I all the way through that when you were talking about comparing Deadly Assassin with Utopia, in my head I had that Paul Rudd "look at us" meme going on, because when we started doing the review of Death, I can absolutely guarantee that you would have gone, why has Utopia got 46? Rubbish. the Deadly Assassin, it's proper Doctor Who. Utopia, whatever. I just like the fact that we can now both just accept and just be open and just go, what a great story, what a great episode of Doctor Who.
I can remember I watched Utopia with my gran. And we were sat next to each other watching it, and she'd been watching Doctor Who for donkey's years, and the Master coming back didn't really.
She'd been forced into it.
She'd been forced into it. Yeah. And the Master coming back was just okay, fair enough. But for me, I was like, it's like such a big deal. Like hearing Delgado's voice and Anthony Ainley's laugh. Cracking,
unbelievable,
cracking stuff. They wonderful moments.
Now, I think I might have to rescind the Paul Rudd meme bit, because we get to match 14 and World Enough and Time has beaten the Sea Devils by quite a margin. What's your reaction to that? To that percentage and the fact that it won?
I mean, I love the Sea Devils. The Sea Devils is probably my favourite John Pertwee story. So for that alone, I think the Sea Devils is better than World Enough for Time. Again, it's that nostalgic childhood thing. Whenever we would go on holiday where there was a beach, it would be like, right, we're playing Sea Devils. There's Sea Devils coming out of the ocean. I love the Cyberman story. There's some wonderful moments in there. Peter is superb. He is at his best in that season, and that is one of his finest performances as the Doctor. So it's very hard, but I do think for me it would have been the Sea Devils, just because.
I know what you mean. I think that the Deadly Assassin is a great story, but I don't think that it's when you think of Doctor Who iconography, when you think of something that's really potent and sticks in your mind, there are moments in the Deadly Assassin, like all the stuff that happens in the Matrix is obviously very iconic, but the Sea Devils is so I know it's such a used word, but it's so quintessentially Doctor Who. It's just so remembered by the public. I think everyone, there's the sort of that public memory of remember the one with the Sea Devils, and the same with Delgado. I think there's still sort of like a public memory of the Master's that guy with the beard. Absolutely. I mean, my dad remembers obviously the Sea Devils, but I mean one of the most terrifying things that he ever saw as a child was the Master. He still says to this day it still frightened him. Was the Master's face appearing in the clock at the end of Deadly Assassin. And that's really funny, because my dad had a friend who's probably about your dad's age, and he was like a closet Doctor Who fan. Like he was embarrassed to sort of say stuff about it, because he works in a place where men were men, so you don't talk about Doctor Who. And he knew that Dad had sons that liked Doctor Who, and so he would say like, "Oh, do you know the one with the Master and his face in the clock?" And it was like, yeah, that's the Deadly Assassin. He was like, oh yeah, that would really frighten me as a kid. So it's that same thing. It like permeates people. Do you know what? I think my dad was the same, because then he'll go, what's the one with that spaceship buried in the shingles on the beach? Oh, that's Doors of Axos. Yeah, that really scared me. Like he'll do the same thing. I, nice to know that they're Master stories as well. And they both Delgado. And then if we end up turning the page, we see that according to the World Cup of the Master, DWM issue 560, the best Master story up to this point is World Enough and Time, and Deadly Assassin comes second. What do we think, Matt?
I was talking to Jonathan about this morning, actually, because I said we're doing this video, and I said the winners were Deadly Assassin came second and World Enough and Time, and he was shocked. He's like, Deadly Assassin is brilliant. I was like, yes, I understand that, and obviously I love that story, but I kind of understand why people would put World Enough and Time higher, because you've got two Masters, you've got the Master, and then you've got Missy on this story of redemption. It's a nice rounding off for that character. You've got all the Cyberman stuff. You've got Peter's technically last story. We'll ignore the William Hartnell one, and it's very good. It's a very strong story. There is so much good stuff in that. So it's hard. It's sort of level pegging for me. I wouldn't necessarily put one higher than the other just because I love Deadly Assassin so much. I don't know about you.
I mean, I'm just looking at this photo of Razor.
Of Razor, yeah.
That is John Sim. I'm sorry. That is so John Sim.
Yeah, you can see it, can't you? Like,
anyway. I I am quite pleased, I have to say, that an episode of Doctor Who this recent is the best story, according to the people that took part in this poll, in the history of Master Stories. I'm very pleasantly surprised to see it that way, because, you know, for all the stuff that we've said about the Stephen Moffat era, you know, people know, and we've said it, because we basically traded off a bit when we started doing the review of Death. The fact that we do not like Stephen Moffat as showrunner of Doctor Who. Generally speaking, and we're not massively, massive fans of his mentorship of the program and his guidance to the program. But I'm very happy to see that a story that came around that recently is there. Still, in the same breath, you know, I'm very happy that the Deadly Assassin in the classic series is represented, coming in second place. And the Deadly Assassin, probably, if you were to go for an entirely master-based story where you haven't got master-based, that was close. Where you haven't got the Sea Devils, or you haven't got something pinned on it like the Return of the Master in Utopia. It's probably the best Master story. I mean, I would probably put the Demons second to that. If I was to go for something, I'd have the Demons number 2 if I had to have a classic series story there. And I couldn't change first place. But I think, do you know what? It spelled the end of that creative tenure on the program as well. You know? That was Stephen Moffat saying goodbye. He did. I mean, again, similarly with the End of Time, let's ignore the fact that the last story that he actually did was a big clap on the back, and, you know, kind of undid the good stuff that he did with this, and left a bad taste in your mouth. Like, if World Enough and Time and Dr. Falls was his finale, I would look upon his ownership of the series a lot more fondly. But you know, Twice Upon a Time leaves a seriously bad taste in the mouth.
Twice Upon a Time is almost like a distillation of all the bad stuff. In one story, whereas World Enough of Time is like, he's firing on all cylinders. He makes such
you've
ballsy
undone
moves.
Everything that's so good.
We're gonna
undone it all.
Basically kill the companion in the first 10 minutes. You know, she's gonna turn into a Cyberman, which is the most horrendous thing that could possibly happen. And, you know, the Doctor's gonna be
2
blown
masters.
up and stuff. 2 masters.
It's,
you know,
Genesis of the Cybermen. You know, and the Doctor is gonna die at the end of the story.
It was just like, I'm just throwing my all at this. And then of course you get, we need a Christmas special. If you don't write it, it's not gonna happen. And he was like, okay, well, what would I like to see? It'd be a laugh if William Hartnell was a bit of an old dickhead and came along and was saying sexist jokes and stuff.
Let's write the first Doctor as William Hartnell. That would be fun.
It really, that is really it. And it is such a shame. It's heartbreaking, especially because Peter's so good in the other one. I mean, not that Peter's not good in Twice Upon a Time, but as a finale, it would have been lovely. And can you imagine, like, Jodie Whittaker, like, walking back to the TARDIS in that tatty costume in this desolate landscape? Rather than all that stuff with Bill and Heather. You know, I did love the idea of, you know, you could have had a few minutes of just Jodie, like, waking up in that landscape and just being like,
I know. And also,
what's going on? I've got to get back to the TARDIS.
And again, it's another TARDIS regeneration. Why does the Doctor have to, I mean, I get it. If you're going to build a new set, I kind of understand it. But they didn't with, like, Capaldi and, you know, the Matt Smith changeover into Capaldi. Then again, I guess the regeneration didn't destroy everything. But it's also like, he doesn't have to regenerate in the TARDIS all the time. Just because Eccleston did it and then Tennant did it doesn't mean that every Doctor that comes afterwards has to do it.
And it's like they had that cop-out one, didn't they, with Matt Smith, where he almost regenerated outside of the TARDIS, but he's like, no, I've got to go back to the TARDIS and change my clothes
and then regenerate.
It's like, oh, really?
I know.
But hey ho. So I think fair enough. You know, I think it's a strong story to win. Much like I think Deadly Assassin is another strong story. And I've always said that I think the Master is probably at his best when his back's against the wall, he's on his last legs, and he's like, I'm struggling to survive. All of the pantomime and arsing around and nostalgia twirling, that's out the window. I mean business. And I think that's very much what you get here. And I guess really sort of with John Sims Master in that story, he's sort of like, well, I'm stuck on this ship. I'm going to cause some real trouble. And then when he finds out that his future is in jeopardy, you know, what better to do than, you know, kill himself, basically.
Pretty much. You know, it's kind of the ultimate final, you know, in your face sort of thing. Yeah. I'm not going to give you the satisfaction. Yeah. And, you know, again, I look at him on that in that promotional shot, and it's like, that's the Master. I
was just about to say, and it gets extra points because you had the beard. So
there we go.
You know,
and there's a bit of a Nehru suit thing going on,
isn't it? I think that was his decision. Didn't he say to Stephen Moffat, "I've got a beard. Can I keep the goatee beard?" Yeah, because I think Russell was very much no goatee, much in the same way as with Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor. Yeah. You know, they wanted to get away from that, which is fair enough. But I do like the fact that
it works for him.
It does work for him. Yeah. Yeah,
doesn't it?
Yeah, and he's more measured, I think, in that story. You know, he's not quite as mental. I mean, I know he's putting his eyeliner on, which is a bit.
Yeah, I know, but that's kind of just like he's bored.
Yeah,
you know, it's just like a character thing. Just I've got to do something with my hands. Yeah. Whereas then you look at Dewan, and it's like, you know, it's kind of like a combination of let's do something that's kind of reverent and pays tribute, like what they're doing with Sim there. Yeah. But let's also do that kind of let's distance ourselves thing. So he's got a beard, so. It's unkempt, but it's still facial hair, and that is such an opposite, obviously, to the Doctor. You know, besides John Hurt. Yeah. You know, having a Doctor with facial hair is kind of like
it seems weird,
really odd to look at.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, if the Master is the flip reverse of the Doctor, they would decide to have facial hair.
Of course.
So then, it's kind of perfect, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, there you go. So I think that was a good little rundown. Not so little. It was quite long. I don't know how long we were going for.
But I tell you what, it was nice to, you know, I kind of feel like it was nice to ease it all back in by talking about something that I think everybody has an opinion on the Master, whether you like the Master as a mustache twirling pantomime villain or a slightly more measured and maniacal kind of egocentric sort of individual. Or if you like them bouncing off the walls, you know, threatening people with their TCE, and you know, being a bit crazy. Yeah. I think that there's a lot in there to discuss and a lot in there to unpack. And I think that, you know, I mean, it is all ultimately down to Roger. And obviously, you know, we have to thank him for doing such an amazing job with the part and introducing the character.
It's funny you should say that, because when the season 8 box set came out, Jonathan texted me because he was watching The Demons. He said, I've just finished all of season 8. And he said, I'm thinking about Roger Delgado. He said, and to be quite honest, he said, no one has ever come close to his Master. He said, there's been some good ones, you know, because Jonathan likes Ainley and he likes Peter Pratt and stuff. He's like, Roger Delgado he set the ball rolling, and you just never quite get that same perfect measure of, I don't know, he's very scary, but he can also be amusing. He, you know,
he'd be quite gentle. He's very charming, obviously.
Yeah, he's just very brilliant. He was so good.
I don't think there's an actor, and you know, and I adore the Master in all of their various iterations for one reason or another, you know, but just for that simple kind of, I think we've said it before, I could very easily sit across from you and have a nice meal and compliment the meal and you know, talk about fine arts and stuff like that, but if you turn your back on me, I will snack on it. And it's just like, nobody's done that, balance those two parts of the character as well as him, I don't think. So I mean, that's quite a nice way to round it off, I suppose, is you know, happy 50, well, not, I mean, what, 50 years to Roger and to the character of the Master. Yeah.
Well, thank you all for watching. Thank you for joining me, Billy.
You're very welcome. It's lovely to be back.
Next time we do a video, it should hopefully be indoors. Obviously, I
think that's going to be so crazy to be able to do it.
It's going to be weird.
As we should be able to.
Yeah. Obviously, we've had discussions about what else we're going to do when season 24 drops, whenever that is. We haven't got a date yet, have we? For when that actually comes out. I think it's probably going to be like June, July-ish.
Yeah.
When that happens, we will watch season 24, and we are going to reevaluate season 24 because you quite like season 24. Is that right?
I do. I mean, a lot of that boils down to the fact it was, a season that I had to watch because it was the only thing at the library. I was taking Dragonfire and Paradise Towers out of the library all the time because obviously nobody else wanted them. Maybe they. I'm
surprised they didn't just say, "Why don't you keep them?"
Yeah, it's like literally nobody wants these. So yeah, it will be really interesting to go back because, like we've said, with these collection Blu-ray sets, they have given people an opportunity to look back on those stories and really give them another thorough going over and reevaluation. And I think that of all the seasons that are going to come out in these sets, I genuinely think that season 24 is going to be the one that people are much more surprised by. They're like, actually, it's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think every story is extended. There's an extended version of each story, which is what I'm going to watch. I'm fascinated to see all the stuff that we haven't seen.
I think that's the way that we should do it. I think you should definitely watch the extended ones. I'll watch the broadcast versions. Yeah, and then we can even compare notes on the differences.
On the differences, And, do these extra bits help the story or whatever? But I'm really interested because it's not a season that I like. It's probably one of my least favorite seasons. Sorry, Jonathan, because he will hate me for saying that. But I'm fascinated. I'm really looking forward to delving into that era. And all the stuff that was going on behind the scenes for that series, because Doctor Who was in a really rocky position, and this was like the last ditch attempt to try and keep it going. So well, that'll be really good fun when those Blu-rays hit. So yes, thank you for watching. Thank you for coming along and chatting about the Master, and we'll see you guys very soon. Bye-bye. Do you want to say goodbye?
Goodbye.
There we go.